This, like, I think it's like a minute behind.
Oh,
So I think we're good. I think we'll go ahead and start. I'm
okay.
like learning more about this every time I do
Yeah,
it.
I've not ever done anything with StreamYard, so I'm brand
Yeah, welcome.
new.
Right, cool. So I'm going to assume that this is working and we are live and in the group. So thank you guys, everybody who is planning on coming to the live today. We have a very special guest. We're here with Kelly. I'm super excited to hear from her and share with you guys. We've known each other for a couple months now or so, and we've talked a little bit, and she is a wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much for being here, Kelly.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you and just give you some of my background and knowledge, and I'm excited
Yeah.
for having me.
Yay. Awesome. Cool. So if you guys can hear us okay, just go ahead and drop a comment and write okay in the comments for me. But yeah, awesome. So let's get right into it, Kelly. So just start us off. We've already talked, so you know like a lot more about my story, but I don't know much about your background. So tell us a little bit about that and what got you up to this point.
Okay, so I am Dr. Kelly Weisner, and I co-own Flourish Columbus. We are a private physical therapy practice studio that is located in Columbus, Indiana. So that's like halfway between Indianapolis and Louisville. So we're kind of right in the middle of southern Indiana, which is nice. So I have been a physical therapist for 8 years. I started my career with a local hospital system, and I worked inpatient rehab. I worked acute care for the first probably 3.5 years. And then my last chunk until now has been in the outpatient world. So I
Mhm.
worked for a number of years with our hospital-based kind of general outpatient clinic. And then June 1st, 2020, my colleague and I opened up Flourish Columbus. So we are a brand new practice, but I feel like it's amazing the growth as a therapist, the growth as a business owner, the growth as just a person in general. All of that that's happened in the last 3 months has been wild. And, it's wild in the world. So I feel like it fits. um, but really the reason why my colleague Aubrey and I decided to branch out and do our own thing was
Mhm.
we just felt like we weren't able to treat and kind of care for patients the way that we wanted to care, the way that we had been taught how to care for people. And, just with the rules and regulations and requirements that are, that are a part of an insurance based model and a hospital system, it's really hard to provide the care that you want to provide, especially sometimes in the pelvic floor world. So we did a lot of research, did a lot of talking to people, a lot of background work, a lot of prayers, a lot of risk taking, and we decided that we were going to go for it and open a cash based model in our city, which we are pretty much the only ones. It's kind of not really a big thing in Indiana. Definitely in Indianapolis, there are a lot more cash based
Mhm.
practices, but not, when we're thinking about the coast, East Coast, West Coast, that's, there's more out there. But we opened to clients June 1st, and it's been great. So it's been a learning experience, but it's been the best thing I've done. I would not regret it one single minute.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And like that's how I definitely feel about it. I think a lot of us feel that way where like it's a huge leap, kind of into the unknown.
Yes.
Which some people's personalities like mesh with a little bit better than others. But it is like it's one of the best decisions I've ever made to go into business for myself because like just, you know, like the sheer amount of personal development and growth that you go through,
Yes.
like you would never get that experience like in a regular clinic or, like a regular job. And it's cool, like to be able to just like get out there and meet really awesome people, learn amazing things. I feel like it sounds super cheesy, but like I see the world like in, like really bright colors, by doing this, and every day is new and different.
Yeah. And I think, for me, so we had started dreaming this dream back in November of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And we always kind of tossed around the idea of it, especially after I went to courses in education on pelvic floor and just saw the benefits of that and how a lot of people practice in a cash-based model. So then, I really think it was a COVID creation that because we were in the hospital-based system, both Aubrey and myself, we were kind of redirected and doing other things, aside from, we weren't even seeing clients and patients for a long time. So we had time to do a lot of the business stuff. And I think it pushed our timeline a little bit. We were thinking, okay, we'd open up in the fall 2020, but we ended up deciding, no, we're just going to do it. And I really think that it's one of the major blessings that has come from COVID is that it pushed us to make that final leap. Because, I'm a very calculated, non-risk taking person. And here I started a business in the middle of a pandemic. So I always joke with people that it's kind of crazy, but I truly think everything happens for a reason. And the way it all came about was it was totally meant to be, which is cheesy and corny. And I don't care because it's working.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. That's going to be the name of this episode, is just like cheese and corn all over the place.
I'm full of that, cheese and corn. So and it's just how it happens. So it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, like, I've talked to a lot of therapists who are really worried about like starting their own thing because of COVID and everything. And like, in my opinion, just based on like the people I've talked to and like my friends here in Las Vegas and like their experience with their jobs during COVID, I mean, like I think we kind of go into this field because it's like a safe profession and like there'll always be a job, and like, yes, but we've also seen a lot of instances on how like you're just another cog in the machine, and like it doesn't matter, like as sad as it is. But like the cool thing about starting your own business is like you can depend on yourself, like you're probably not going to fire yourself, at least right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother aspect to it because, you take ownership and it's like, okay, if I am not out there marketing or treating clients or trying to drum up business, like it's on you. And it's scary and it's intimidating, but it's also very empowering to know I did this and I've built this. And so, and I think just patients and clients and people in general are looking to have places that aren't just a million people in a gym doing their exercises. I mean, especially during this time, we've gotten a lot of feedback that people like, coming in. There's maybe one other therapist with a client in there. Usually it's me and my client, and they appreciate that. And, so it can be done, and it can be done well, especially in the COVID times that we live.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really an important point, is just like patients are starting to notice. They're starting to notice like the way that, therapy is kind of going traditionally right now. And like, it's not going to thrive in that environment if we put it that way, and so they're going to seek out other things.
No, and I think, I feel very fortunate that my whole career has been with our local hospital, which when I was treating with them in our outpatient clinic, we would get 45 minutes to an hour, one-on-one. Like, so that in and of itself is kind of a rarity. And so I felt so fortunate to have that. And I had fabulous coworkers, but it was just like, even at that, I still felt like there was something missing and that there was like something better out there for myself. So, you know, I hear a lot of people talk about places that you see 20 patients a day and, you know, you're just billing. And I don't, you know, I don't have that experience and I can't imagine having that experience. But just knowing the feeling, you know, of burning out or just, you know, resentment or not being able to focus on my patients the way I wanted to, even in the great setting I was in, makes me really appreciate what I'm doing now and realize, hey, this is so much better for me, for my clients, for everyone. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like all what, you know, all of us are really after is just a better experience for everybody because it makes everybody happier. So your practice, tell us a little bit more about like the services you offer, like different ways you work with people. I see stuff on your Instagram all the time. Tell us about the things that you have going on.
Yes. So we, Aubrey and myself are both doctors of physical therapy. So that is our main focus first and foremost, because it's what we do. It's what we know. It's what we love. So I treat the gamut, but I also do the pelvic floor side of things. And Aubrey is an excellent orthopedic therapist. She's also done a lot of coursework, like with Sarah Duvall and a lot of kind of the women's health type things without going full on into pelvic floor physical therapy. So we have that side of things. And then we also offer personal training. Ooh. We also offer nutritional coaching. So Aubrey is a certified personal trainer. She's a certified nutritional coach. And then we also have some small size fitness classes that we do. So kind of like a blend of yoga, bar, Pilates, cardio, HIIT. We just really wanted to bridge the gap between like formal physical therapy rehab to community-based exercise. And there are a lot of fabulous studios in Columbus of like yoga, bar, Pilates, spin, all those great things. And we just felt like for people who want to maybe get into that, or they've had a baby and they're not quite sure if they're ready to go back full force, that there was something in between that people felt comfortable doing. And that's kind of why we designed these classes. And I mean, they're so fun to teach. And it seems like people are really enjoying them because we really welcome everyone of all levels. And it's nice because we can provide modifications based on our PT knowledge. So it's a little bit of a different spin on your typical like group exercise class.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we have a lot going on.
yeah, which is super cool. And then did I see too like a picture of you guys doing like yoga outside?
Yeah, so we went to, Aubrey and I went to a yoga class that one of our studios in town hosted at a flower farm. So
cool.
So fun. It was like perfect. It was amazing, which, you know, Indiana weather can be a little hit or miss. So it was so nice. And we just are really looking to build those relationships with, you know, the yoga studios and the bar studios and other like-minded professionals so that we can just support each other and lift each other up. And so we were doing that last Friday, which was lovely. So that was really
That's awesome. That's really cool. So things are going super, super well, which is amazing. But when you were first getting started, what were like some of the biggest challenges you ran into?
So Aubrey and I wanted to really start our business and cash flow it ourselves. It was very important to us that we did not take out a business loan. So I would say just figuring out how much we felt comfortable putting in and making things work with that.
Yeah.
Because our space right now, we have a private treatment room, a bathroom, and then kind of like, we call it our gym, which it's not, it's a small gym. But I think just getting the business stuff, because we were both just clinicians, you know, and you live this life as a clinician where you're told what to do. You punch in, you punch out, you do your paperwork. You don't have to think about supplies and cleaning and bills and answering the phones and scheduling and blah, 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 you know, all that stuff that you have to do to run a business. So I think we spent a lot of time researching, planning, talking to people who've done it before. We decided to talk to a lawyer about getting everything set up, because I mean, there are ways you can do it on your own, but we're like, if we're building this, we don't want to have any loopholes that's going to bite us in the butt down the road. So we spent a lot of time and effort and just energy researching and finding out, you know, LLC versus corporation and all that like boring non-clinical stuff that you have to do. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I would say was the hardest, because it was just doing it. And I think making the decision to do it, like the hardest part for me, and this is going to sound kind of stupid, but telling my husband that I was quitting the hospital.
Yeah.
To start my business. Like that was the hardest part for me, which is ridiculous. But, you know, like we had talked about it, and the original plan was we were going to open this up on the side, potentially do both, because we thought, okay, it's going to be cash based. It's not a conflict of interest. And come to find out, the hospital was not okay with that, which
really,
yeah. In hindsight, I'm glad, because it made us do it.
Yeah, there you go.
But it was like, you know, once we figured that out, once we decided, okay, we're doing this, then having a conversation with him in order to tell my boss and my director, who are fabulous people, that we were leaving, that was probably the hardest thing. Just, you know, you go from a stable money, you know, regular paycheck to uncertainty. I will tell you, the weight that was lifted off of my shoulders after I had made that decision, I had talked to my husband, I had told my boss, I mean, I just felt 1,000 pounds lighter. And it, you know, even in the midst of a pandemic, opening a new business, giving up my regular paycheck, like to me, that just solidifies it was absolutely the right thing to do. And we've made it work. I mean, it's, you know, we've made it work. So it's, that was probably the hardest part, which is crazy, but.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You know, it just, you figure it out. You know, if you follow your heart and like follow what you really want to do and what brings you joy, you'll figure it out along the way. I know that there are some other people who are kind of struggling with like telling their employers. It's interesting, you know, because there are some employers who are like very like, absolutely, I love that you're doing this side business. Like, please, like take our discharged patients, you know, go for it. And then there are some employers who are really against you doing anything on your own. So it's interesting that there's like a spectrum, but like for anybody who's considering doing this and they do need to have that talk with their employer, do you have any advice on that process?
Yeah, so Aubrey and I were very transparent from the beginning, and we have excellent relationships with our former manager and our director. So we felt very comfortable going to them at, you know, we had planned and we were like, okay, we know we want to do this. We have a business plan. We know, you know, our target clientele. We know our business model. So we probably over prepared to meet with them. But we just had a meeting and said, look, this is where our passion is. This is where our hearts are. We really want to do this. We would love to be able to stay on here. And I think if it was up to our boss and our director, they would have let us.
Yeah.
But because it, the way things are with the hospital system, they had to check with different compliance officers and all that jazz. And it's, it just, they came back to us and said, look, it's either you go all in with us or you go all in with your business. And so then we had to make that decision. But I really think being transparent when you feel like you are ready. So we did a lot of planning before we got to that point. I mean, we probably went to them in April, March and April to say, look, this is what we want to do. Ideally, we do both. We need to know if that's an option. If not, then we have to, go one way where we're going all in on the business, or if, that's an option, okay, then we'll go down that road. So I would say, be transparent, be professional, but be honest. I mean, it's, if people really care about what's best for you and what's best for the clients in your community, they're going to want that regardless of if it's with that company or with your own company.
Yeah.
And I think, if things don't go well after a meeting like that, then it's just even more indication that maybe it's time to do it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because when it comes down to it, there's enough patients for everybody. And so it might not line up, with the policies of, where you're working right now. But I think that's a good point. The feeling that you get in the vibes during the meeting are very indicative of, the decision you need to make.
I'm a very vibe person. So it's like if I've always had a very strong gut reaction to things, bad or whatever. But I just think that, we know in our heart of hearts what we need to do. Sometimes we just need to talk it out or bounce ideas off of people or have those hard conversations to really bring up and make it apparent to, okay, it's time.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of switching gears a little bit back into the business and where you are right now. Number one question that I get from people all the time is, where the heck do I find clients? Who's going to pay me? How do I even make this work? How do I even build a caseload? What advice do you have on that?
So we are all over social media and, offering education on, who we are, what we provide, how you can benefit, giving people snippets of value and creating that relationship with them online. People get to know you. If you are not putting your face out there and your voice and your information and your passion, why would they come to you? You vibe off of people, going back to that vibe thing. And so if somebody stumbles across me on social media and they're like, hey, that is really interesting to me. And I had no idea that, diastasis was a thing after pregnancy. Then you just get those people involved in your business. I think throwing personal stuff into it as well. People want to know you. I think, I connect with people online that I've never met before. It's just the way the world is now. So I think having a consistent quality presence online, you have to, especially with COVID. You have to have that. We did an open house, a socially distanced open house before we opened. So we invited people to come and check out our space and chat with us about what we do. And that was amazing. People came out and, they could get a feel for what our space felt like, what we were like. So that was really helpful. Something else I was just thinking. Oh, we're offering free consultations. So giving people half an hour to meet with us, whether it's in our studio or virtually, that has been amazing. Because so many people want to know, okay, what can you do for me?
Mm-hmm.
How can this benefit me? Why am I going to pay you out of my pocket to do this? What's the benefit of it? And if you get people, I really like to get people in the space, because then they're like, oh my gosh, okay, this makes sense. I feel comfortable here. That has been huge for us. We just started that a couple weeks ago, advertising that on our social media. We did a lot of education about cash-based PT and cash-based therapy, and the difference, and what you get with a 75-minute eval with a provider one-on-one. So I think it's just being present, being consistent, educating people, answering questions, making yourself available. And it's like, again, cheesy and corny, but if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's about creating like a lot of opportunities for connection.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of different avenues. And we're doing some collaborations with like-minded community members. So we met with chiropractors, we've met with massage therapists. I've talked to my friends who are, they work at the birthing center. I know some people who work at OBGYN offices. So just using those connections and educating people that are movers and shakers in the community, especially if you know them, and saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. Just spreading the word, getting your information out there is key.
Yeah, I think that's great. Like I think that a lot of people, when they first start out, I think, like a lot of us did when we first started out, it's hard to go from being like kind of like this like nice clinician to somebody who like is a little bit more outgoing, and is willing to reach out to people they don't know to talk about things. It's so key. It's so key. And I'm glad that you brought up the education on the cash-based stuff. I know that is a big question as well. So if you don't mind sharing kind of like how you approach that conversation with people who maybe are like, oh, what does this mean? And I don't know if I can afford it. Like, do you take insurance? How do you do that?
So a lot of people, if they hear cash-based, they think, do you only accept cash? Can I pay with a card? I'm like, yes, like I will accept any form of payment. No, but once we, so if people are asking if we accept insurance, I will say, no, we do not accept insurance. We are considered out of network for all insurance companies. Our system provides a receipt to every client at every visit that has the proper coding on it. So if you would like to submit to your insurance company on your own, that's absolutely fine. I always encourage people to call their insurance company to see, especially if they're asking about insurance, to see if they have out-of-network benefits or what the process is for submission. And it's so variable that I put it on the patient, because if they want to submit it, that's their prerogative. I don't feel like I want to be doing the legwork because that's why I'm in the cash-based model. And then I do a lot of explaining about the value and how being in a cash-based model, you get to charge what you feel like is appropriate, and just comparing and contrasting and, talking and educating a little bit about with insurance and reimbursement and the changes there. That's for people who really are like, need to have that kind of like background information for it to make sense to them. Most people really understand the value, and at that point, they've usually come in for a consult or we've talked, and it's like, hey, I know my insurance might not cover it, but I like you. I feel comfortable with you. I want you to help me, because they get that vibe from you of, you're going to do what needs to be done to help them. And because you get that quality one-on-one time, probably don't need to come in 2 or 3 times a week for 8 weeks. Like, you just get better results, and people like that. They like to get a good deal. They like to get better and quicker. So usually if you frame it like that, it makes sense to people.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard to be a salesperson when you're not taught to be a salesperson.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting how that skill set is just like completely missing from our curriculum.
And I think, it's hard for a lot of us as physical therapists, because at least for me, I almost like felt bad, like selling myself. And you almost are like, you can almost come off as like apologetic for your price or charging what you charge. And I think when you have to totally change your frame of mind of, look at all this value you get an hour and a half with me for this amount of money, and there's so much value there, and look how beneficial it's going to be, and we're going to address any concerns you have. So you think you really have to switch your thoughts, and that is hard. I mean, it's harder for some people than others, but if you come at it from that lens, people will understand and will get that from you. And there's no need to apologize for charging what you're worth and the value you provide. So I had to learn that lesson. I've gotten better.
Yeah, no, it's hard.
It is.
It is, because it's just something that you like don't see like in the hospital or the clinic or whatever. You're just not involved in that at all. Right. But some patients might end up getting bills that are like several hundred or thousands of dollars for your services.
That's an excellent thing. I was just going to say, like, what you're paying for up front. You're not getting a bill a month later that's thousands of dollars. And you're like, well, I thought you accept my insurance. Well, yeah, but you haven't met your deductible. So we charge you the full blown rate. That's insanity. So I think it's a lot of education, and just, I always give patients the option if they're stuck and not sure what to do. I said, I have fabulous colleagues that can take great care of you, and they accept your insurance. So just really leaving it up to them and providing them with all the information is all you can do, and people say yes, people will say no, and then 6 months later they're knocking on your door because they didn't get what they need, and sometimes that's a hard lesson for them. But
so it's just about practicing, for one, practicing sales stuff, and then just being like really confident in what you have to offer. I've found that a lot of my interactions that resulted in a sale came from a place of, well, I know exactly how to help you. I've done this before, and I know that this will work for you. So, it's kind of up to the patient as to whether they say, okay, great. I trust you. I trust that you know what you're doing. Or if they say no, it's just, they just like don't see the value, or they like didn't connect with you. It's usually one of those two things.
Right. And I think we need to be okay as clinicians that we're not right for everyone. And that's okay. And it might not be a good fit for every person that walks in your door, and that's okay. Or it might be somebody has to find their way back to you, and that's okay. Want to just provide them with all the information so they can make a choice and a decision for them. And yeah, absolutely. And just like,
having like open arms, no matter when they come to you, I think is great. So kind of like big picture, I guess, there are a lot of people who are really wanting to do this right now, but they just like can't pull the trigger. What is like your biggest piece of advice, or like top like 2 or 3 biggest piece of advice for somebody who's brand new to starting their own practice, starting their own business, and they're just like really worried and don't know if they can do it or not?
So they've already made the decision to start?
They're like 98% there, yeah.
Okay. Do it. Number 1. No, if you have a plan in place and you have done your research and you feel comfortable to the point where you're 98% comfortable, 90% comfortable, 80% comfortable, you need to do it. And this is like, I feel like a totally different person, like pre-business owner to now. Like, I just go with the thought that life is so short, and to be able to have the freedom and the ability to practice how you want to practice and work with clients how you want to work with them and truly change people's lives, you just have to do it. And the beautiful thing about being a physical therapist is you can always go back. If it doesn't work and you're like, well, crud, this didn't work out, like you can always go back to something else. Not, if you do it and you fail, it's not like your life is over. And that for me was a huge piece of advice that I got. Like, you can always do something. Yes, it might not be exactly what you want to do, but you can always find a way to make it work and make ends meet. And it's not forever. If it doesn't work, you're not a failure. You tried it, and good job for going out there and trying it and getting what you want. And I think it's just taking that scary leap, but it's also putting trust and confidence in yourself. And once you take that leap, your confidence level goes up. And then you get your first client and you're like, okay, like somebody just paid me, I can do this. And then you just build on that. And I think it's just so important to go after what you truly want. And you're going to be a better person, a better therapist, a better partner, a better parent, whatever. You're going to be better because of it, because you are allowing yourself to go after what you want. So really just doing it, doing the work. Don't just go jump off the deep end without anything. But once you get to that point, taking that big step and holding yourself accountable, and you will do it. You will totally do it.
I've got chills, Kelly.
Good. I mean, it's like, I just can hardly even put into words like how amazing and crazy, and like, yes, it's a lot of work, but I would have never thought I would have done this a year ago, 2 years ago, like in PT school. Like, no way was I going to open my own practice. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
But I tell you, like, it's been the best thing. And I am a better person. Like I said, a better therapist, a better wife, a better mom because of it. And it's doable. So do it. Go do it.
Yeah, I'm convinced. I'll start my own practice.
Good. Go for it. And another part to it, like people who are doing it, people who are owning their own business, they're in the cash-based world. We are all, I feel like, so supportive.
Yes.
And you will find that community, and you will find the people that you vibe with on that clinician, therapist, business owner level. And everyone I have come across that is in this practice model is just like so welcoming and supportive. And because there aren't a ton of us out there. I mean, there are people that doing it, but it's, it's a relatively small group, and we all just want to be make sure everyone is happy. We want to make sure every physical therapist is doing what they love and not getting burned out and being grumpy, because I was grumpy. Like I was starting to be a grumpy Gus, and like that's not everybody. So just know that there are people out there that will support you from the PT side, and just dive on in. The water's fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All you have to do is like reach out and ask for help. And I can almost like guarantee, I think I'm a little bit biased because I just like love this stuff to pieces, but I can almost guarantee that like anybody you reach out to and ask a question to, paragraphs, you'll get paragraphs of advice, like offers to talk and chat and help and all kinds of things.
100%. And that's how I really got started. I asked questions and said, hey, I'm interested in this. And people challenge you and say, well, what's holding you back? And I was like, oh, what's holding me back? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. So maybe that's a sign. So, it's out there. Reach out to people. We're here to support and help you along the way. So it's doable.
Yay. Awesome. Cool. So last little segment here, self-promo time for Kelly.
Yes.
Tell us, like, what are you currently working on? What are you looking for? How can we best support you?
Yes. So you can find me on social media in a couple places. So my personal Instagram is at Kelly Weisner DPT. Flourish's Instagram and Facebook is at Flourish Columbus. So you can find me and Flourish on Instagram and Facebook. We're pretty active. And then, so I am really working on getting my like birth prep essentials course together. So I learned a lot about different exercises and positions and all the things about leading up to birth. It is so cool. And so I'm developing a course that I can do live with clients, or they can have an option to do it virtually. So that is my next big adventure, other than growing all things Flourish. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. That sounds super helpful.
I wish I had known about it. And my kids aren't even that old. And I'm like, well, why didn't I know this? I'm a physical therapist. But, until you don't know it if you don't know it. So my hope is just to educate and support that clientele in that fun time of life. So something I just have a passion and a love for.
Yay. I love that. Great. So cool. Definitely feel free to share any links in the group or on this post if you want. Share all your things with us. Yeah. And I think that just about wraps up our time today. Thank you so much for being here, Kelly.
Thanks for having me. I love talking anything business, PT, cash-based. I'm always down for a chat. So
Yay, great, awesome. So all you guys watching here today live and then on the replay, definitely feel free to reach out to either myself or Kelly about any of this stuff. We are both like in it. We love it. So please reach out to us for sure. And if you have any other questions about getting started and you're looking for a little bit of hand holding, definitely let me know and I'll help you out. But thanks again so much, Kelly.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone.